Dear friends, welcome to the third class of Comparative Politics PhD module. Today our topic will be party systems, and we'll be talking about largely two-party systems as well as multi-party systems. Dear friends, generally two-party systems are identified with majoritarian democracy and multi-party systems with consensus democracy. If you remember our previous classes, Britain had a majoritarian democracy and a two-party system, while Switzerland and Belgium had multi-party systems but pluralist or consensus democracies. According to the literature, two-party system is advantageous in providing clear choices to electorate in terms of parties and policies. Two major parties compete for the swing votes and the politics remain at the central spectrum. However, if both parties are adjusted to the central spectrum, their programs are likely to be very similar. So, in one point of view, the two different political parties might look like each other in their policies, in their political programs, and in what they promise to the people. It is also claimed that two-party system leads to stability and one-party governments, which is preferable for policymakers. So if one party is on its own in the government, it makes decision by itself. But if there is a coalition partner, of course you need to have a consensus with your partner in order to make decisions. Therefore, coalition governments are short-lived and one-party governments are stable. Dear friends, majoritarianists prefer two-party system for dominant and powerful cabinets. Because of the reason that I have already mentioned, if you don't have a coalition partner, you can make more effective decisions without needing to have the consent of your partner. There are closely allied parties in some countries, and there is a discussion whether in the party systems, in identifying actually the party systems, whether we might count those closely allied parties as one party or not. Of course, it will not be our task to have a conclusion on that, but you might keep this in mind. And in counting, in naming the party system, whether it's a multi-party system or a two-party system, there are some things, some indicators that we need to concentrate on. For instance, the effective number of parliamentary parties, and we should keep in mind that two parties and only two parties are rather rare. Even in the United Kingdom, it is not like two parties and two parties only. There is the Liberal Party, for instance, there is the United Party, Independent United Kingdom Party, so on and so forth. So, two parties and two parties only are rather rare. Dear friends, a small party can be a potential partner if the major ones regard it to be so. Extremist parties, for instance, extreme left or extreme right, might not be potential coalition partners, but if they are large enough, that is to say if they have enough votes, if they have a good portion of votes, they are still counted in. Of course, in naming the party system, I mean multi-party or two-party. Dear friends, Sartori is an Italian political scientist, one of the most famous political scientists of our time. According to his criteria, the size and ideological compatibility defines the structure of the party system in a country. And there is a chance the large parties blackmailing the rivals. The same thing might be valid for small parties as well. The small parties, even if they are moderate, they are far less blackmailing. What is blackmailing? For instance, no party could establish a one-party government, and all political parties should negotiate with each other in order to establish a government, so on and so forth. A small party might tell to a large party, well, if you don't accept me as your coalition partner, I'm going to establish a coalition government with another party, with another large party. Or the same thing applies to the large parties as well. They might blackmail the small parties. Well, if you don't come with me, I'm going to have the government with another. So each party might have the capacity to blackmail each other. But you should have enough number in order to be capable of blackmailing the other political parties. For instance, in North Cyprus today, there is a four-party government. It is interesting, and two of the four political parties have only 3 members of the parliament. 3 each, just 3 political parties, but they are blackmailing, because in North Cyprus you need to have over 26 seats, because there are 50 seats in total. You should at least have 26 seats, and sometimes you need even the 3-party, a party which has 3 members of the parliament, only 3, but it might blackmail you. If you don't come with me, I might go with another. It's no problem. So if you are large enough, and there is no actually optimum limit for that, for being large, if you are large enough, you can blackmail all the political parties in establishing coalition governments. Dear friends, here is a table on the board. On the left, we have party systems. In the middle, we have hypothetical examples of seats and shares and effective number of parties. Let's have a look. If the example of seat shares is 55% and 45%, and there are just 2 effective parties, then this is a 2-party system. If, for instance, one party wins 45%, the other 40%, and the other 15%, then it is regarded as 2.5-party system, and the effective number of political parties becomes 2.6. And in another point of view, if a party wins 45% of the votes, another party wins 20% of the votes, another 15% of the votes, and 2 remaining parties 10% of the votes each, then the multi-party system is a multi-party system with a dominant party. Who is the dominant party? Of course, the first party, who has 45% of the votes. And there might be a party system with no dominant political party. For instance, if 3 political parties win around 25% vote each, another party wins 15% and another 10%, it means that there is a multi-party system without a dominant party in that country. So, in multi-party system without a dominant party, the effective number of parties might be 4.5, and as in the example above, a multi-party system with a dominant party, in such a case the effective number of political parties is smaller, and in this case it is 3.5. Dear friends, the British democracy has 2-party system. 2 major parties and other weak parties are in parliament, and generally one party has the majority in the parliament. If there are 2 major parties and a potential coalition partner, we might call it a 2.5-party system. 2 major parties and a potential small party that can be a coalition partner. Actually, in such cases, the small party is very lucky, because both large parties will depend on it in order to be capable of coming into power. And on the other hand, there are some twin parties that look like one party, and some parties look like two parties. Some parties, there are fractions. I'm going to come to that. Factions, there are factions and so many intra-party polarizations. But there are some twin parties, two different parties, but they are actually acting like one single united political party. So the criteria one in making sense of this is challenging the other. If you challenge the other party that is very similar to you or not. For instance, the Christian Democrat Union and Christian Social Union, two different parties in Germany, they are like one party because they don't challenge each other. Because because Christian Social Union nominates candidates only in Bavaria, not in other places. In Australia, liberals and nationals do not challenge each other's incumbent candidates in single-seat districts, but both might challenge Labour's incumbent candidates. So, the liberals and nationals in Australia as well, they are acting like, they are two different parties, but they are acting like a united party. And there is another criteria, establishing a common parliamentary group. For instance, in Germany, Christian Democratic Union and Christian Social Union are doing so. In the parliament, they have one united common parliamentary group. And another thing that we might call such similar parties twin parties or one party. Another thing is cooperation in opposition and government. If one is in the government and the other in the opposition, then they are not twin parties. But if they remain in opposition and government together, that makes them twin political parties. And of course the time. How long does the alliance live? 5 years, 3 years, 10 years maybe. How long? It is also another criteria. And if the alliance lives long, then we might call it twin parties or one party. Actually, two different parties acting like a united body. And dear friends, here we have a table, and in this table we have the number of political parties in the parliament, and there are the number of elections in last years, actually in 1945 till 2010. Let's have a look at the political parties in countries' parliament. For instance, the Switzerland, the mean is 5.20, the lowest 4.71, and the highest 6.70, and the number of elections in those years 16. Israel, the mean is 5.18, the lowest 3.12, and the highest 8.68, the number of elections 18. So that is to say, both Switzerland and Israel has multi-party systems. So let's move ahead. Finland, around 5 mean, 4.54 lowest, 5.58 highest, and 18 the number of elections. So that is to say, the number of effective political parties in Finland had been the highest, 5.58. The lowest number of effective parties in Finland parliament was 4.54, and the mean was 5.04. Of course, there are some countries that are around two-party systems and something like two-party systems or 2.5-party systems, such as Costa Rica, Austria, Korea, Ireland, and Mauritius. You might have a look at the table itself as a whole. So, dear friends, in order to repeat, if there are two parties capable of coming into power and no other party is likely to come into power, we call it two-party system. If there are two major parties with one small partner that can be a coalition partner for the major parties, then it is a 2.5 party system. And if sometimes, dear friends, if sometimes there are two different parties but they are acting like a united political party, then we call them twin parties, or we might call them one party. Dear friends, thank you for listening to today's module. I'll be looking forward to meet you in the 4th class of this module. Thank you. Have a nice day.